It's Atticus. I'm um I'm a anonymous poet, and yeah, this is kind of a bit about me and a bit about my story.
Like I mentioned, what my attraction was to what you do is the words and the fact that you just let them be. Um,
Oh, thank you.
you're the mask, all that kind of stuff. Like I can see where people look at it and go, well, you're hiding behind this, or there's a fear of that, and or whatever. But I think the first thing that popped into my head when I saw it was like this, like what we're doing now is like, no, like you get so jumbled in the
Yeah,
image that goes along with it or the person that's in front of it, and you immediately are like, well, no, that I'm not paying attention to what you said, number one. Or number two, you didn't even hear it because you're starting to judge everything else around whatever you can see. And so I look at it as
yeah,
what caught my attention was like, it doesn't matter about famous or not famous. What to me it looked like was that this person wants to just, that it just wants you to pay attention to what's being said and the beauty of that. Um, so maybe
yeah,
start there. Where
yeah.
did you see all this like start to unfold?
Well, I think actually you kind of picked up on it perfectly. And from the beginning, I think I've wanted. It's been an experiment, and maybe I'll look back and be like, well, that didn't work at all. But from the beginning, it has been kind of important to me to just keep it about the words,
Yeah.
and keep it about the poetry. And um, fame is like a really tricky thing, and just
Yeah.
having spent you know some of my youth in Los Angeles and places like that, and surrounded by fame, and kind of seeing the double-edged sword that it can
Yeah.
be. It was kind of important to me to grow this experiment and adventure, but do it without the kind of negative kind of ego effects
Yeah.
of the recognition and the fame and people, you know, you know, fans, for
Yeah.
lack of a better term. And right when I was starting, I don't know, not many people know this, but a friend of mine died in a hotel in
Mm.
Vancouver, and he was quite famous, and he was on a show that we all know. Um, and he was from the same small island I'm from, and I think for me that kind of just like rattled my reality,
Sure.
and kind of shook my foundations in a big way. And what I realized was that while it's a beautiful thing to kind of spread your art, that that kind of fame is a really tricky thing, and it can come with
Yeah.
really really heavy baggage, and so when Atticus kind of began, I was like, I'm going to do it anonymously, and and just see how it goes.
See how it was.
And so that's been kind of the mantra since the beginning. It's just like
Yeah.
spread art without fame, and I think it's helped me, honestly. I think it's helped me write uh, the words I truly feel, and not the words that I think I should feel.
Yeah.
And I think it's helped me write vulnerably and keep it about the words and not about this like image of who this person is. And I also think that um, what people have told me, and what I love, is that it makes it about the words, and it doesn't matter who, you know, Atticus could be anyone. It's like a part of me, it's a part of
Yeah.
you. It's about the words.
Yeah, I mean, I saw that, and like, I think it was like part three of like your explanation as to, like why you do that. And to me, I found it like interesting that like in this world, like we have to explain that, where you can't just be like, I just want to write, I just want to put this out there, that it has to come with, some image, or, some visibility of like who's doing that. And
Yeah,
we need that explanation. But I the way you described it there, that that they're your words, can't remember what musician I heard that. I feel like it was Ed Sheeran that really recently said something similar, that like these aren't songs that like I have to live with writing these songs every day and hearing them come out, but once they're done and they're sung out, they're not mine anymore. Like they're yours, and
Yeah,
you get to do whatever you want with them, like, however they are interpreted to you. And I that message is the same there for you. Is like they're yours now, and I think that's rare to find, in this
yeah,
day and
I,
age.
I love that. Yeah, no, I love that a lot, and I totally agree with you. And I think it's a kind of beautiful thing about art. I think some artists kind of hold on to their stuff too tight,
Yeah,
potentially, and I think it's a beautiful thing about it. And you know, in my case, I don't know if you know this, but some people started getting my words tattooed, and then like lots of people started getting it tattooed. And I've always thought it was so beautiful how
yeah,
people will come and tell me the meaning. They'll do a tattoo of a verse, and
yeah.
I'm like, what did this mean to you? And I
You,
and I hear it from them, and it's so they've taken it. It's theirs. It's like it's their art, their meaning, and they've
yeah,
they've kind of brought their own kind of artistic touch to it. And I just think that's so beautiful. It's kind of what the whole thing's about. It's what art is
yeah.
about. It's not my
It's got to be
words.
kind of mind
It's
blowing
theirs.
too, that you see something so permanent on somebody, and like you had maybe some intention or some, meaning behind, that phrase, those words, whatever it may be, and
Yeah.
they saw it in a totally different way. That's got to be a little mind blowing to hear,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, yeah, but it's cool, people will change things around. They'll take poems and change pronouns. They'll change,
Yeah,
words, and like you said, like we're saying, it just like instill their own meaning within it,
yes.
and it becomes something new and beautiful.
What's the challenges then of being somebody that's, this wordsmith, and we see screenwriters and copywriters and, all that kind of stuff, but it's not something you see every day, that authors, and then still, being a poet is, is an author as well, but this is very specific, right? That
Hmm.
how much of a challenge is that in this day and age? And then on top of that, how much of a challenge is to be a poet of something like love in a world where that doesn't seem to be at the forefront all the time.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting thing. I think thankfully the world's changing a bit, and
Yeah,
growing up in a place like Canada, and I think America is very similar. It's like, you know 10 even 10 years ago, men are certainly not encouraged to
yeah,
to do things like writing poetry, particularly
no,
like love poetry or being in touch with their emotions. In fact, you're kind of encouraged to do the opposite,
yeah,
and I think that's a real shame. And it does create the kind of toxic masculinity that we all kind of talk about. Thankfully, I think I've seen a kind of trend away from that, and it's a it's a slow and tedious journey, but it's it's been amazing to see. And a lot of my followers are guys, men and they'll message me being like, I didn't know how to communicate a lot of
yeah,
these thoughts to my partner, wife, husband, whatever.
yeah,
And your words and other poetry kind of helped me do it, and it helped me kind of synthesize my love, and in an articulate way. And um, so I think that's beautiful, and I think
yeah,
that like this whole trend towards like um, the masculine getting more in touch with the feminine, but still honoring both, that I think
yeah,
is really important for kind of like a healthy human, and vice versa. And like it's all just this spectrum. We're all
yeah,
just we all have the masculine and the feminine within us. So and that was kind of like a challenge coming up, and I certainly, when I first decided to be anonymous, a piece of that was also just like a fear of being vulnerable,
yeah.
and it was as it grew that it became more about fame. But it's, I think in the beginning it was like, hey, I'm like,
Yeah.
scared about posting about my, anything,
Sure.
anything,
Yeah.
you know. So yeah, that was difficult. And then, um, the anonymity piece makes things tricky. It's like, I'd love to have the screen on and just be chatting with you right here. I think it would just like, I'd love to just go for coffee. And, my publisher and book agents have always been like, God, just take off your mask.
You're
And
making this impossible, dude. Like, come
I know,
on.
they're like, you can go on the Today Show, you'll sell so many books, you'll be a famous influencer. And I'm like, yeah, but why though?
Well, yeah.
Um, yeah, so yeah, so it's just yeah, not that important to me. And I've
Yeah.
been lucky enough to have success in different areas of my life that Atticus has never been about money, and it just like helps me make decisions that are true to my
Yeah.
heart, kind of thing, rather than financially motivated.
Well, it's got to be kind of like almost like refreshingly grounding, in a way that, yes, you have to battle with that decision where your publisher's like, listen, like, here's this opportunity, but like, this is going to have to go for a second. You probably still have to wrestle with that, but it's like,
Yeah,
at the end, like you get to have a conversation that not a lot of people do in a day, that, maybe we're told that we need to meditate and slow down, but you kind of giving yourself an opportunity to always have to think about that. And that to me
yeah,
is something that's much needed. But I mean, probably like a side effect of, your decision to be anonymous. But I don't know. I mean, I could see that. I could see the struggle in the sense that it's like, oh, like I can't say this, or I can't do this that way because, it'll kind of blow that one. But then at the same time, I could see it like, I don't have to do that. I don't have to answer that.
yeah,
I could just focus on this part of, my life and enjoy it. Right.
yeah, 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 yeah. And I think you're totally right. And one beautiful thing about poetry, and just kind of like having this process of writing a lot, is that it is very therapeutic. And like, as it relates to
Yeah.
mental health, it's like, you write these poems, you're kind of like, you're forced to put it. I you know I've always said that, like, sometimes thoughts are safer down on paper, and there's
True.
something nice about just like processing these things. And it's
Yeah.
a form of journaling, and just like interacting with your emotions and thoughts and feelings, and you know getting them out of you and onto paper. And I've always
Yeah.
thought that was a cool aspect about writing poetry.
And I mean, is that something that like from day one, like you've always been fascinated, or where did that grow into that, or how did that come
I
about?
think,
How did that part of the story?
I never grew up writing poetry. I did journal a lot, like
A
as a
lot. Yeah.
kid, yeah. Um, and my mom, I had to give her a lot of credit, but she was amazing at you know how so often, if our parents show us something, we'll kind of rebel against it, and we're like, no, I don't
Yeah.
want to do that. It's just kind of like what it is to be a teenager.
No.
But my mom had this incredible technique of just kind of like hiding um, books and things in close to me, and having them close enough to me that I would find them and think I found them. So with Kerouac and Hemingway and Hunter and Emily Dickinson, and these books were just always in my
Always
bookshelves and
there.
around, and I kind of thought I found them. And she just had kind of
Sneaky
snuck them into
mom.
my world, which very clever.
So she knew what was coming ahead of you. You just hadn't gotten to that yet, right?
Yeah, maybe, yeah, something like that. Yeah, totally, totally.
And so here she is sneaking books around, and for you to, here's your mom, like, introducing all these writers, these very famous writers and famous stories that they've written. And lo and behold, here you are at this day, and you have a collection of all
Oh
these
yeah.
books that you've written, right, coming, and how does that kind of
Right.
formulate in your mind that it's like, whoa, this is where it was when I was a teenager, and here's how that connects. Like, does that kind of make you like blow your mind in a cliche way there? Like, unfortunately, like,
Yeah, no, I mean, like, to be honest, it doesn't,
yeah,
I think again that comes back to just like this anonymity thing, and it,
yeah,
you know, having that space between it. I've never, I don't think I don't think I like feel, I never feel like there's like, a couple million people reading
yeah,
this stuff. I never feel like these, I don't know. It's a weird thing. I think it's because I think there's just a real big separation between
yeah,
my writing um, and the kind of, it it's spreading around. Yeah, have
yeah.
you ever heard of that documentary, Searching for Sugarman?
No,
But you can find the documentary, or look
yeah,
it up. But it's about this musician in Australia, and he released a bunch of albums, and like nobody listened to them, and then he left and went to America. And
hmm,
he just like wasn't successful, so he just got a job in construction and worked
yeah,
construction for like 20, 30 years. And meanwhile, the somehow his records became massive in Australia,
in
and he was
Australia.
a superstar, but he had no idea.
Yeah, no
He was
idea.
just doing construction for, 20 years in America. And then he eventually they people found him, and they're like, "Hey, you've been listening to your work." Or like, "Hey, you're like a superstar in Australia."
He's like, what are you talking
Um,
about?
Really beautiful story,
Yeah,
his music's is amazing. But all that is to say that there was that separation. It's like people were listening to
yeah.
it, but he was just working construction, and that's how I feel about Atticus a lot of the time. I just sit here writing books. I don't know, who
Who's
buys
seeing it?
them, but I just try to write truthfully,
Yeah,
and if people resonate with them, it's a beautiful thing.
yeah. Do you feel like we need that separation? Like, if you look at the world of, celebrities and, the pedestal that we put, movie stars and authors and all that on, do you feel like there should be more of that? Maybe not this anonymity necessarily, but like some version of separation to kind of, kind of like recenter the universe in a way that, you're not so high up on this pedestal.
Yeah. Um, yes. I mean, like I said, uh, it's kind of like the absolute power corrupts absolutely, and
Yeah,
fame, to not get corrupted by even small amounts of fame is very, very hard. You know,
yeah,
it just from like what I've seen, and I know some insanely famous people, and I've just seen it, and I've seen their kind of trajectory, and just like
yeah,
what happens, and I just knew um, from my just experience in life, and what makes me happy and what makes me sad, is that I knew fame would be bad for me. I
hmm,
knew it'd, be bad for family, and so
yeah,
you know that that's just me. I mean, some people kind of like are showmen, they live for that kind of
sure, yeah.
energy. I'm someone who just like loves to like wander around towns in France, or like in Paris, and go to coffee shops and go to bookshops and like, do my own
You
thing.
get, yeah, I was gonna say
Yeah.
you get to live, right? I
Yeah,
mean,
you
you
get
don't
to
have to
live.
have that like thought
Yeah.
of, well, there's a picture
Yeah.
of me having a cup of coffee. Who cares that I'm having a cup of coffee right now? Like,
Yeah.
leave me be.
Yeah. It's true. And I think it helps when, you know, um, money wasn't a motivation for me. And so it's, yeah, so it kind of like made that part different. Bill Murray's got this incredible quote that says, if you want to become rich and famous, become rich first, and then see if you still want to be famous. And Have you heard Jim Carrey's one? He's got one, a good one too. It's like, I
I
wish
was gonna
every,
say there's a similarity of,
yeah.
and I just forget how he said it, but you're right. Go ahead.
Jim Carrey's was like more along the lines of like, I wish everybody could become rich and famous and, so they could realize that's not what they wanted. Um, and yeah, there's something, take it with a grain of salt. It's like, but there's something I believe to that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and what it does, I think, is like, unfortunately, like, you kind of, like I said, you put these celebrities, whoever your version of a celebrity is, up on these pedestals, and then they make a mistake, whether this large, like, felonious mistake or something simple that just, makes everybody go, oh, well, I hate Reese Witherspoon now. She said that. And it's like, well, hold on a
Yeah.
second. Like,
Yeah.
remember for a second that they are human. And I think,
Yeah.
again, I go back to the beginning of what I said. Like, for me, that's what caught my attention, with the work you do. It's like, you personally get to live, like you said, and just enjoy life and whatever, success meant to you and means to you now. And then on top of it, everybody else gets to just experience as the human that put those words onto paper, onto a shirt, onto a journal, whatever the case may be. You get to just live with the fact that we're all a human in different, unique ways. But I think that's, something that, and maybe in like an unintended, consequence of what you did. But to me, I think that's what, the uniqueness and the, the greatness of what you created does, for whether people realize it or not, but they get to just experience the humanness, of what's there.
Oh yeah. Well, that's kind of a beautiful way to say it. I mean, that's kind of what we're all doing, isn't it? Just like
We hope,
exploring
right?
what it is to be human. Yeah. But
Yeah,
yeah, you're right. I mean, with in fame, just it's like I can't. It's almost impossible not to do something wrong, in fame right
yeah,
now.
yeah.
It's yeah. It's like
And in some ways, you're like,
um.
yeah, like that was totally wrong, and like I am gonna not
Oh
pay
yeah.
attention to you anymore. But the other times, most of the time, I'm just like, well, hold on a second, like
Yeah.
they get to have that opinion. You may not like have enjoyed that, but
Yeah.
and I don't know, it's always going to entertain me. And a lot of times, like, you see the celebrity react in a way, and it's like, they're frustrated that people feel that way. Well, and it's like you get to do the opposite at that point. I'm like, well, hold on, like you said something, and they get to feel that, and we can't separate that, like you can't take a look at the fact that, that celebrity said something that bothers you for the way they are and still
Yeah.
enjoy their music or their movies or their books, like, so it's like, I don't know, that
Yeah.
dichotomy is always entertaining to me. So it's like,
So true.
you've removed that in a way, though, like I said, maybe unintended or not, you kind of remove that wall, that it's like, nope, he can he could do whatever he wants in the world, and we'll never
Yeah.
know. And I think that's great, to be honest. Like, I think that's beautiful, to
Oh
put it
well,
in
thank
simple
you.
terms.
I think it's very imperfect, and like I said, it's just an experiment.
Yeah.
Watch me in a year being like, I need to sell more books. I'm taking my mask off. Please love me,
Your
but no,
publisher's gonna be like, so here's the dilemma.
yeah,
Your sales are going down. You
yeah,
have
I
two
can't sell
choices:
anymore.
this silly experiment where you have this
Yeah,
ridiculous mask all the time.
exactly. So yeah,
So that's a good
we'll see.
question, though, and we'll kind of like end it with that, because that'll just leave it like a, like a dot dot at the end of the book. Is there a point where you see yourself just going, I can walk away from this and you'll never know that I walked away from it? Or do you see this social experiment, going on forever? What do you see?
For
Or do you
now,
see anything?
yeah. No, I mean, for now, I very much just like want to keep it
Sure.
anonymous and just keep writing books and
Mm.
whatnot. I think I have the kind of uh, uh I kind of have this like daydream in my head of one day, kind of like when I'm older and just don't care, um, doing like book tours where I go and like read and
Yeah.
just like talk to fans and without the mask, and it's just like a very authentic,
Yeah.
you know, the- I just love meeting people who also love poetry and want to talk
Yeah.
about it and hear their words, and share mine and just kind of have these like very simple poetry nights. And I
Yeah.
think they're kind of like at that point it's like you're kind of old enough not to care for one, and
Right.
then you're just uh I think it'd be very different at that point. It's not about fame, it's about just
Right.
like having a nice night with people who like poetry.
Friends.
So
Yeah. With
that's
friends.
how I think I would do it if
Maybe
it came down to it.
close the book on that. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
not necessarily like this, like, aha, here's who I was the whole time. But you end it kind
No,
of in
which
that
isn't
beautiful
what it's
moment,
about.
like,
Yeah.
hey, we've connected for all these years, and you get to have a different connection now, and
Yeah.
almost,
Yeah, we
I
can
don't even
hug
say
and we
deeper
can,
connection, because to
yeah.
me, this is like the deepest connection you could possibly get, that you get to, connect on the meaning and the purpose and the words. And then you're just adding to that by getting to put a face to it. But
Yeah.
no, it's a beautiful ending.
Yeah.
I like it. I like it.
Thank
So
you.
thank you, Atticus. I truly appreciate it.
No, my pleasure.